The Toyota Supra's not the highest place, that is in 6th place, and there's a whole block of them then, 6th back to 10th. The Esso, Zent Supra, the two Dynacity cars, and the Denso Saab Supra GTs all there. David, this is really down to the lack of overhang that these Toyotas have. Why is that?
The Toyota's been designed really for the faster circuits that these cars go to, and not for the more twisty, tighter circuits that you see here that we're racing on. This is the last corner. You can see them coming through there now. They're coming right around the outside. The chicane there is the chicane that they will use during the actual race itself to try and slow them down, but they come out of this corner. You can see them rising up the hill underneath that Dunlop tyre there, that Dunlop bridge, and that's what we could see in the background when we were looking at the start and finish. So they come up over the top of here very quickly indeed and onto the start and finish, and this is them all lining up now. The pace cars pulled off and into the pit lane, and these cars being split in two, basically. The GT500 going first, and a little while later, just a few seconds later, the GT300s will come through to start their race. Red lights on, there it turns green. Leading cars, most of the cars have got the lights on already, and as they head down towards the first corner, big group, 3 abreast going into this corner here.
Yeah, what you don't notice, a terrific drop here. This is very, very steeply downhill, like Paddock Bend at Hill Bend at Brands Hatch, and it drops down again and then takes us around the circuit. You then climb up to another high point. So as they said, a very much a little mini spa this, and already the field streaming out. That's Yuji Ida and the Calsonic Impulse there just pulling straight away there ahead of the Andre Lotterer, Matsuda, Epson and XX. So round they go, streaming out, and behind them, of course, the 300 cars starting a little bit further at the back. They're in a block behind them, but already getting on. As we said, 81 laps scheduled of this race, and temperature 25-degree mark, not as hot as they expected. This race was normally run in April when it was foggy last year, for instance, when Seiji Ara won on his way to Le Mans, to winning the Le Mans 24 hours. But 25 degrees, but terrific humidity here in Japan, David.
Yes, it is, and it's got to give some of these drivers a little bit of a problem as the race goes along. But certainly at the start of the race, they're all sort of ready for it, all very tense and trying to get the best out of it at the very beginning, because if you could try and make some places up, it's always at the very start when everyone's sort of trying to settle themselves down, where you get the more aggressive drivers trying to take 1 or 2 extra places. But here we see the lead car, the Calsonic car, it really is stretching its legs away a little bit from the Epson NSX in second place there.
We're expecting this race to go to about 2.5 hours. That's a little bit less than last year, and already there we got positions coming up. As you can see, those Supras all way back there, but the number 1 Zonavi Z car, the championship leader at the moment, that's the car, of course, of our own Britain's Richard Lyons and Satoshi Motoyama. They're carrying a massive 90 kilos of weight spin already, the 38 Zent car. That's Tachikawa on board that. That's not what Supra wanted. They got enough catching up to do today. I think what we're going to see, David, the Toyota's very, very fast on these straights, but not so quick in the wiggly bits.
Now, you were saying before about the lack of overhang. Their car is very much built for the quicker circuits, not for these tighter circuits like here at SUGO. So they have certainly, as you said before, struggled in qualifying. The first one is 6th on the grid. They do come in a bit of a block after that 6th through till 10th. There's 5 of them in a row there. So they're right behind the quicker NSXs and the quicker Nissans. In Japan it's called the Nissan Fairlady. We know it as the Nissan 350Z. And that's the one that's really been very good, but it has won the last race. But having won the last race with Richard Lyons, as we said earlier, he's now carrying some 90 kilos of ballast on the car. Now that's a problem around this circuit where you've got such an undulating circuit, having to pull uphill from very slow hairpins. That 90 kilos really does slow the car down, and that's why he's qualified a fair distance down. And we do feel that he may struggle today during the race. He simply won't have the power and the performance that he normally has with all that extra weight on it. And that is something they use to try and make it equal for everyone. So if someone starts to running away with the championship or the races, then they add a bit of ballast weight on to try and slow them down. At the moment, the heaviest one, as we said, is Richard Lyons at 90 kilos. They can go up to a maximum of 120 kilos. If somebody decides to win 2 races on the trot, then that's where they would end up at.
So here we are, here come the leading bunch through that Calsonic car, as we saw, slipping back to 3rd place there, the Motul Pitwork Z of Mikael Krum. Up ahead of it, there it is, the Raybrigg NSX in between them. That car's come up from 4th place, and the Epson car slipped out of the, can't see just now, but that's that Raybrigg car, Sebastien Philippe, Jeremy Dufour, the French Dream Team. 3-litre V6, and as David told us, no longer turbocharged, those cars. Up against 3.5. Oh, we've got a crasher here. Who's that? Someone crashing already. Done no good. That's one of the VMAX, I think, David.
Yeah, it looks like one of the little VMAX cars that's in the GT300 class. He's running the back of somebody, number 62, there we are. And they've certainly gone either straight into the barrier or straight into the back of somebody and broke the front of it. You can see very shortly that bonnet looks as though it's about to flip up over the top. If the catches give way anymore, or he goes a little bit quicker, then that's going to flip over the top. When he slows down for the corners, it comes back down. He'll just be trying to get that back to the pits now in order to try and repair it. Remember, this is a 3-hour race, so it does take quite some time to get things repaired. You can get back out there and make the car work for you. So having a problem at the beginning isn't always a total disaster. You can actually get it up and running again. But this is the results for the GT300s at the moment. And pole position, the NSX of pole position there, the car 0, still leading.
Well, here's the Artigraya, the Nissan powered 3.5-litre V6 coming in. This is Mario Nita, and he's had a spin. Let's see, going in. Another spinner then. There's a lot of problems going on here. There's another of the VMAX cars. In comes Rita. That's the car that had that collision. It's round 4 of the Japanese Super GT Championship here from SUGO circuit. 300-kilometre race and great fighting right early on. David, as we said earlier, they're just not hanging around, are they? They're just pushing as hard as they can at this stage, just trying to build up that any margin they can over other cars.
And this is a change for the lead in the GT300 class. We've now got the little VMAX gone ahead of the Honda NSX, and Honda NSX had qualified on pole position. Around the outside goes that little Mazda RX-7. Now remember, now at the very first race we got so excited about that little yellow RX-7. It was a real privateer effort in this racing, and they came out and did extremely well in that first race, and for us it was the car of the race, to be perfectly honest. And they're still here, they're still trying hard, and they've been finishing in the top 5 all the time, but they've just put themselves up now into second place. The Honda, I think, must have some sort of problem. He's gone wide there. That's totally his own fault for going wide and letting the VMAX through. But the VMAX, they come in various different guises. Got different engines in there. Some with Toyotas and some with Hondas. So I'm not sure which one is which at this moment. But certainly the VMAX got itself through, and the little RX-7 through into second place in class.
Yeah, this is the Directive car that's leading the class. It is in fact a Honda V6, as you said, David. VMAX, those of you who are just wondering exactly what it is, they're cars built in Britain, they're built in Essex. Both of us think they look incredibly like Lotuses, but who knows? A problem there then. One of the Lamborghinis being passed by a lot of people. That is the 87 car, I presume. That's the old car which has been moved back into the GT300 class, being lapped.
Yes, there's 2 Lamborghinis, one in each class at the moment, and certainly the GT300 one certainly is struggling out here. It's the first time they've run it, and out here in this class, and really is struggling to find its feet. One of the other cars we haven't seen yet in the GT300 class is a Subaru Impreza, which I have to say very impressive. Out of the 20-odd cars in its class, it's managed to qualify in 10th place. So hopefully later on during the race we'll see 2 or 3 pictures of that. That's very impressive from that car first time out.
Yeah, that car has been, the team's run Imprezas the last 2 years, but this is the first time they've run the new style Impreza. And oh, we've got a big problem here. It's a Lamborghini in there by the looks of it. A big fire. Now what's happening there? This has been, this must be the 87 car we were just looking at. Wada Q driving that car. Huge accident. We've got red flags, David.
That's very unusual. Generally they'll put out a pace car, but red flags, very serious incident indeed. That looks like the driver that's walking away there. Somebody looks like suited and helmeted walking away. There he is. Yes, that's the driver. That's good that he's managed to get himself out, but it doesn't look as though there's a great deal left of that car. We can see in the foreground here there's some tyre marks, goes off across the grass, so he looks as though for some reason the car's left the circuit spinning and gone into the barrier, and when it's hit the barrier it looks as though it's exploded and gone up in flames, and I think it's destroyed that car by the look of it.
So here at SUGO, the field lining up for the second start of the afternoon. Spectators getting really good value for their money, David.
Yes, they get these two cars very close up there. We see the Toyotas, blue and white one, red and white one there, lining up just behind the Nissans and the Hondas. And I thought they were going to go through that little chicane there to slow them down, but obviously they don't. They're playing with each other now as to when are they going to set off to go along the straight. They're letting the pace car get away in front of them, so the pace car will go off the circuit. You can see in front the circuit with a big watermark going across it, where they've washed away the foam that was used for to put the fire out. But that's the GT500s all lined up now. There is a light on, the red light will be on. They're getting across that wet track and onto the dry stuff as quickly as possible. There's the red light on the left-hand side. The minute that turns to green, they'll just suddenly take off, and that should be going about now. There we go. And they put hard into it, all of them accelerating with the little Honda up the inside of the Nissan. That really will upset them. And Honda's first second. Oh,
he's been tapped.
Nissan's gone round.
He's been tapped, in fact, by one of the fellow Nissans, I think. It wasn't a Honda that touched him, it was someone behind. He's dropped down to, I guess, about 15th place there. So our race leader really slow off the start, though, David. He was controlling that start, yet he was the slowest away.
That's right. I think he just hung on a little bit too long. I think he hung on until the light actually changed instead of getting the foot into it just before the light changed. And two Hondas got right beside him going into the corner, and he seemed to have got tapped from behind by somebody else, and that's turned him around. So basically he'd gone from the front of this GT500 pack right to the back, and we've seen in the first 10-11 laps he was right up there leading the race and leading it quite comfortably, one of the other cars right behind him. And there we see the little Mazda having a real battle with one of the works Nissans, the 350Z as we know it, the Fair Ladies as it's called in Japan. And they're side by side through these corners. They're still side by side through these corners, and they're still side by side 3 corners on. And this is absolutely terrific racing to watch these two. This is a GT300 class, and you see the guy right behind. He's lining himself up, thinking, well, if these two are going to make a mess of it, thank you very much, I'll take it. But not quite. That's the Dyson for second place there. Out in front is the little VMAC car, the blue and white car we've seen just in front. So we've got the VMAC, the Nissan, the little Mazda, and then another Nissan just after that.
Well, look at that, 2 Hondas out front again, just as it was in Sepang, and what a good job they're doing. There's the number 1 car there. That's suddenly come up the order. That's the Navi Nismo Z of Richard Lyons and Satoshi Motoyama, the defending Super GT champions. Super GT, of course, now not Japanese GT, as they spread their wings globally. Races in America, they've already had one in Malaysia. They had hoped to go to China, to Shanghai. That wasn't to be, but next year promising much, much bigger plans, and there's even talk of having 1 or 2 of these races in Europe. But that Citroën has been mentioned as a possibility. These cars really are fabulous. They're almost the sort of sports cars version of NASCAR in a way. The GT500s have space frames front and rear. You can move virtually everything except the cockpit.
Yes, the actual basic cockpit itself, the actual chassis part, or the centre section of the chassis remains of the original car, but you cut the front off it and put on your own front, and cut the rear off it and put on your own rear to hang on the suspension and the engine, the gearbox, the differential and all those bits and pieces. So very technical cars indeed. It's not as though they've taken a road car and turned it around into a race car. They've taken a road car, cut the front off it, cut the back off it, and what little you've got left, then you've turned that into a race car. Very technical cars indeed, very quick cars indeed. You can race almost anything in this championship. The championship's open to cars from Europe. Right towards the back of the grid, we've actually got a Ferrari 550 GTS, and as we mentioned earlier, it's one of the Lamborghini Murcielagos also involved in this category in the GT500 class. But those 2 cars really do struggle compared to the well-engineered, well-tried and tested of the Japanese manufacturers, because certainly the manufacturers in Japan would not be happy if a European company came over and started beating them on their own home ground.
So this at the moment, the battle for 14th place. This is the Zenta Surumo Supra, Yuji Tachikawa, Torinosuke Takagi. That is the same Toru Takagi that we had in Formula 1, we had in American racing. And Takagi holding off at the moment. The Calsonic car of Yuji Ida, that's the car that was leading at the start. It was spun out in the first corner. We never quite saw who tapped him from behind. We'd like to have seen that in slow motion, but I suspect it was another of the Nissans, because that's the whole group that are up front. But great battle going on here. He's got his afternoon's work cut out. He's going to have to get up as far as he can now, and he's got a long way ahead of him, David.
Yes, he's got a long time to do it. As we said earlier, they've now got some 68 laps to the restart of this race to try and do that. And they've got a couple of pit stops as well to refuel and retire the cars. So there's quite a long time to do it. But like any racing, it's very close, very competitive. And it's not the easiest thing in the world just to pull back 15 places. We see it in whatever racing it is. If you've got a very good car, yes, you can do well. But coming from maybe 4th or 5th up to the lead is fine, but coming from 15th up to the lead is more difficult. Here in the GT 300 class, you've got the little VMAC out front with a Nissan 350Z trying very hard to go up the inside there. Didn't quite make it. Little Mazda RX-7 in 3rd place. And I'm pretty sure that's another Nissan 350Z that's in 4th place there.
Yes, that Mazda again, just to remind you, that's the car that we both raved about at the opening round at Circuit TI Aida way back in, where were we? March now, going back a long way. That car driven by Yamaji Neri put on such a good showing, finishing 2nd place behind the endless 350Z, Fair Lady Z. And again, right up front this time, and they're giving both those cars, the Nissan and the little Mazda, giving a hard time to the Gryer up ahead of it.
The Toyota, you can see in the background there, just slowly edging the way towards the front. I think having the other Calsonic Nissan having a problem, and that sort of helped them up another position. But they seem to be working away at it. They've got a very good car. They know it's a good car. They've won races with it before, so they'll just keep plodding away towards the front.
Welcome back to Motors. Great battle then going on here this afternoon from SUGO, Japanese GT Championship, Super GT Championship 2005. And look at this massive mix-up with back markers, and here are the two Nissans trying to get past the NSX Honda, which has just been pushed back into 2nd place by the Ray Brigg car. So great racing here, David Leslie from SUGO.
Yes, the Ray Brigg cars managed to pull away and leave these 40 fighting out. You've got the Epson car you can see in the front there, and then behind that you've got the two Toyotas now got past the Nissan. That orange and black car was lying in 3rd place. It's now just been demoted by 2 places down to 5th, and you've now got the two Toyotas up there, the Denso car and the Dyna City car, which had been 5th and was catching this group from behind, and with the group all battling with each other and slowing each other down. He's managed to make himself up there and take that position, so he's now in 3rd place.
Well, they're indeed in 3rd place, the Dynasty car, as you said, and so that at the moment gives us a little bit of a sandwich there. Supra, Nissan, Supra, and this is the way it seems to be starting to develop now, David. We started out at the beginning of the race with Nissans and Hondas up front, and then this block of Supras from 6th downwards, but they've really all pulled themselves up now as the race has unfolded.
They're trying to pull themselves up, doing a very good job in actual fact. There's still the two Honda NSXs out front, the Ray Brigg car and the Epson car, with the number 100 Ray Brigg now leading the number 32 Epson car. And there's one of the cars into the pits. That's the Epson number 32 car, so that's the first of the leaders now into the pits for a pit stop. Will we have a driver change as well as fuel and tyres? And we're not sure. What normally happens, because they've got 2 stops, one of the drivers will do a double stint. Now, sometimes, depending upon what the team managers want to do, they may put one driver in at the beginning to do 2 stints, and then the second driver just to do 1 stint at the end. Here we're changing, so the driver that was in has just done that first stint. The driver going in now, I'm fairly sure he will do a double stint. He will do this next stint and then the one after that as well, because they'll try hard not to change the driver twice, just to change the driver once. It's one of the things that takes quite a bit of time. But like a lot of the rules in sports car racing, while you're refueling, all you can do is change the driver and nothing else. And once that's done, then you can do the tyres. Now, they managed to do the refueling, put the car up on the stands, up on the air jacks, after the refueling was finished. They changed 2 tyres, only 2 tyres, not 4 tyres. And having got that done and back on the grid, they still were not finished doing the driver change. So it was a very slow driver change. So I'm pretty sure that team will not want to do another driver change and lose yet more time in the pits. So I think the driver that's now gone into the Epson Honda NSX will be the one that stays in there for the next stint.
Yeah, it was Andre Lotterer definitely coming out. We could see his helmet, and this is SUGO Matsuda, who's on board now. And as David said, a bit of a slow stop, 31.9 seconds they gave for it, but they should have had the drivers swapped over before they'd finished doing the other jobs. And this car's going to lose a bit more time now. Look at that, out on his first lap, already pretty rough on the curbs there.
Yes, I think he's just taking time to settle himself into exactly what he's doing. You do get a bit of a rhythm in these cars once you get going, but I have to say the professionalism that's in this championship and the level of drivers that's in here, the minute you get into the car and when you leave that pit lane, you should be on it straight away. You should be smooth, you should be precise, you should put the car exactly where you want it and not be making mistakes, running over curbs, running over grass on the exits of the corners, and losing a bit of time like that. The professionalism and the drivers who are in here, there's quite a small number of European drivers, but some very, very capable drivers who've been, some of them here in the Japanese series for quite some time, and they've definitely made their mark over here and making their living over here. Definitely
the man we're looking at the moment, Eric Comas, we presume, in that car at the moment. This is now the second place battle, because our second place car, as has made his pit stop, so still right on his tail is the SO Ultraflow Super of Aida and Wakisaka, really trying to push through. No Dynasty, we're overlooking the Dynasty Supra, sorry, once again. That's in fact moved up to second place. So this is our third place battle. That Dynasty car crept up when we weren't looking, you remember earlier, with James Courtney and Shisuyo, is it that car? Yeah, and they're really in a good position at the moment. James Courtney this year not having had such a brilliant racing after the first race. Aida, they finished second, but it's been a little bit downhill since then, and Courtney and Shisuyo would love to get a win today.
I think they've been more consistent than they have been super fast, to be honest. That consistency is paying off for them. They're not far away in the championship standings. They're sort of hovering around about third place at the moment in championship standings. So they're just trying to amass points rather than be the outright quickest people on the circuit.
And while we were talking, look, the Denso cars now come up. The Denso Saad Supra GT, that's Andre Couto, the Macau-based Portuguese, and Ronnie Quintarelli, the Italian who did German Formula 3 last year and was also world karting champion, of course, a man with a number of string to his bows. And that car's coming down, making attack, coming down the inside of the SO car, can't quite do it. So again, these cars, as the fuel load's light, and they're just getting quicker and quicker, and they're really attacking. Everyone keen to make up position before they make that first of their mandatory pit stops. As far as I know, we've only had 2 cars do that so far. High drama here at SUGO, round 4 of the Japanese Super GT Championship. We've just seen one of our potential race winners, a long-time leading Raybrigg NSX, taken off, we presume, by the Takata Honda. We didn't actually see what happened, we only saw the aftermath, but both cars were off in the barriers at the same place, and the Takata car had been pushing the Raybrigg car of Jeremy Dufort just before it happened. At the moment then, the situation is the Bandai Supra of Seiji Ara, the 2004 Le Mans winner, and Naoki Yokomizo is leading. But as David Leslie said, until all the pit stops have finished, it's very difficult to work out exactly who is the virtual leader.
And we've seen the caption there that came up just to say what position everyone was in. We car number 34 in first and 35 in second. 34 is the Bandai Supra and 35 is the Eclipse Advan Supra. And I can only think because they were well down to start with, they were not within the running. They were running down in one day 34 car. The Bandai Supra was running in 10th previously. All of a sudden, for it to be leading, I can only presume, but not knowing for sure, that it hasn't actually been into the pits for its pit stop. And I think the Eclipse Advan Supra would be similar. In third place was the Arta NSX. That's the car driven by Ralph Furman. But you can see now, as it settles down, we've changed again a little bit.
Yeah, he's just pitted, I think, because we're looking at the moment now at the 4th place battle. That's the Epson NSX, and right behind him, Yuji, not Tachikawa, sorry, that's Wakisaka, Juichi Wakisaka in the Esso Ultraflow Super. He's taken that car over from Akira Aida. And here they are coming down the hill then. Great racing here, huge crowd here today, 50,000 people coming to watch what in Britain would never attract this many people. Here's the 35 car then at last, the second place car, Yellow Hat, YMS Supra. David, you were quite right. Naoki Hattori handing over that car. They were out of sequence, and our virtual leadership's about to appear, I think, when the Bandai Supra car stops.
That's right. While they have here we are, the Bandai Supercar, that's the one that's in the lead position. He obviously had a lot of fuel on board. Maybe that's why he qualified a bit further down, because people will do that. They put a bit of extra fuel on in order to maybe not qualify as high up, but certainly run further. But there he goes. He's into the pits now, and we think that'll be the last of the GT500s in for their pit stop. So when he comes back out, I know he was running down in 10th place. We've certainly lost the lead Honda NSX, the rear rig car, so that'll put him up to 9th place at least, if nothing else, and we'll see where everybody else settles down. But this car, I got a funny feeling, will come out certainly in the top 2. This Dynasty car, Toyota Supra, it's really been on it and doing extremely well.
Like to see the pit stop of that car, the Bandai car. Want to see if Seiji Ara is going to stay on board. Still the only Japanese driver ever to have won the Le Mans 24 hours. Mazda won it in 1991 as a manufacturer, but no driver until last year. And of course, Ara helped by Tom Christensen last year, who this year went on to win for a record 7th time, and very much in the new. Oh, big moment there! Very, very big moment for that Dynasty car.
That's the problem that can happen when you're trying to get past some of the slow cars. There was 2 slower cars to 2 GT300 cars. They're fighting over the corner, and the Toyota Supra decided he would just dive down the inside and get past a pair of them, and unfortunately it didn't work for him, and he got tapped into the. Here we see what happens. He's flashing the lights, he's letting them know they're coming. The Nissan's gone down the inside in the middle there, and the little VMAX on the outside. The VMAX got to take his line and try and keep the Nissan behind, and the Nissan just simply gets squeezed. He's got nowhere to go. He just continues down. You can't stop it any quicker. And then the Toyota that's up the inside, unfortunately, ends up with hitting the car as it goes down the inside. But here we are, one of the Epson car now coming up to pass that same Nissan, and the little VMAX now has been overtaken by the Dynasty Supra. And this is the battle for second place, we believe. The number 0 Honda NSX and the number 7 Mazda RX-7 for the second position in the GT300 class, with a little VMAX still out in front, leading that class for the GT300.
What a great little car this is, the MX-7. I know there's a lot of MX-7 owners in Britain and all over Europe. They just must be loving this when they see a car like that doing such a good job here in Japan this afternoon. But great fighting still going on throughout the field. The Denso car there, that's the Saab Supra GT of Kuto and Quintarelli. Again, the Dynasty car, 2 Dynasty cars incidentally. One is the Courtney Tsuchiya car, the other's Yamamoto and Taka Kakatoya. I think we're looking at the Japanese crew one at the moment. Yeah, that's the 37 car. So David, bit of a lull now after the first mandatory stops. Everything shakes down into position again, and always a quiet time in these races in the middle, isn't it?
It's a little, because they've all been very close from the outset until they get to the first pit stops. And the first pit stops, they all take them at different times. And when you take them at different times, it depends whether you've got a nice clear few laps to try and really stand on it and get some good lap times in. Because if there's no one in front of you, none of the smaller cars to get past, you can really put in some quick lap times and try and pull away that little bit extra, or catch up that little bit extra, depending on exactly where you are lying in the grid position. Now we can see a car there, yellow flag being waved. I think that might be going to the Ferrari that's sitting there bent still in the barrier. That was a safety car driving up the edge of the circuit. Maybe it's going to try and recover that red Ferrari that's sitting in the barrier just before the pit entrance. But once the race settles down again, then we'll find out exactly who's where. And once that happens, then all these drivers really start turning on the wick to try and find out exactly where they can
We're
pull various things back.
pretty sure that 37 car has yet to make its first mandatory stop, which would put the Epson NXX car into the lead again, as it was earlier this afternoon. The 32 car of Matsuda and Lotterer. Sugeo Matsuda now on board. Looking at our second place car here at Sugo. This is the Epson NSX of Sugeo Matsuda. Car that was leading earlier in the race, and there is the race leader just ahead of it, the 37 car. That's the gap between them. It's only 4 or 5 cars lengths. And we saw earlier that the number 37 Dynacity Tom Supra of Yamamoto and Kataoka was falling back into the grips of this car, the NSX, and there it is as the confirmation. It was 1.7, but again, traffic coming into play now. We just saw the GT300 lead battle being broken up by the faster cars coming through, and the Toyota MRS driver making better use of making room for those cars, then dive through, snatch the lead of the class. So David, it's not just a question of being fast, it's not a question of racecraft, it's also knowing how to deal with traffic in these endurance races. That's always been a prerequisite, hasn't it?
It makes a very big difference. If you can arrive behind someone and get past them very quickly, we were saying before with the little Mazda RX-7 and the Toyota MR that was behind it, he was stuck there for quite some time before he eventually did get past. But if you can arrive behind somebody and get past straight away, it's much, much quicker overall race time to be able to do that than arrive behind somebody and then take 2 or 3 laps to be able to get past. So having able to manage traffic does make a big difference. So it's not just a case of being a very quick driver in endurance racing, but it's one who is able to use his head, to be able to look after the car, to get the best fuel consumption out of it, to maybe get an extra lap out of that tank full of fuel, to try and stretch it a little bit further than the rest of the cars out there, to look after the tyres, look after the brakes, and be able to still to pass everyone or anyone who appears in front of you.
Here's a car we haven't seen much of this afternoon, Ralph Furman's Arta NSX. He's showing Daisuke Ito, and he's following the other British crewed car there. That's the number 1 Zanavi Nismo car of Richard Lyons and Satoshi Motoyama. So all British crews battling at the moment here for, I think it was 7th position we just saw flashed up there. The Ralph Furman then pole position in Sepang, finished in 2nd, but it's really had a fairly torrid weekend. He put the car off when they did super qualifying on Saturday, and he was really in line to be on the front 2 rows of the field. Through they go, passing another back marker, another of the Garayas, and still Richard Lyons, if he's at the wheel, or Satoshi Motoyama, fighting to keep Ralph Furman off. And again, just underlining what we said about how quick these Hondas are. Although, as David said, 90 kilos carried by the Nismo car. But Ralph Furman, he's carrying quite a lot of weight as well, 50 kilos.
Yes, that's the second largest of the ballast weights that are carried. And these 2 cars, nose to tail, and the Honda's just hanging on to the back of the Nissan just now. He's looked at 1 or 2 different ways of trying to get past and hasn't been able to. I think if he can get out of that last corner a lot closer to the Nissan, he'll try and get a bit of a tow from it and see if he can draft himself past into that first corner. But they look very evenly matched, both carrying a reasonable amount of ballast, and that certainly does slow them down. And certainly on this section here, when you're coming from the hairpin up towards High Point, then having to pull that extra weight up that hill and having to go from the slow corners that you have around here and having to accelerate out, trying to accelerate that extra mass is always that bit more difficult than the guys that are not carrying any sort of ballast or lead weight on.
Interesting what you said about the passengers, because the first 50 kilos of excess weight you have to carry have to be bolted into the passenger seat space, and the other 50, any more weight after that, that's spread also around the car. They can go up to 120 kilos. I mean, that is a massive amount to carry.
It is a lot of weight, but that weight is used in a lot of different categories throughout the world to try and balance cars up, because if you have a set of rules and somebody manages to interpret those rules better than the rest of the people racing in any one category, then they're going to win on a constant basis. And rather than having one person winning all the time, they even it up by having this ballast that they can put on or take off or move around, to try and make sure that everyone has an equal chance of winning. And there's very successful cars are the cars that get the extra balance, and that slows them down a little bit and then gives somebody else an opportunity to try and win, because all these manufacturers do want to win. And like anything else, if you don't win for a long period of time, then you think, I've had enough of this, and you give up and go away again and don't participate. And no one wants to see that. Everyone wants to see as many manufacturers, as many teams, as many drivers out there as possible participating. And it's a very good equalisation formula to have that balance weight put in there. But yes, most of the championships around the world will have the weight put in one place. Certainly in the touring cars that I raced previously in this country, that the balance weight would always go into a box that would have been specifically fitted into the passenger side of the car, and then the weight would come in set blocks and set weights, and that would always go in there, and that's where your ballast would be. And everyone had the same thing. It was sealed by the scrutineer, so they knew that it was right once they checked it.
Well, one of the Dynasty drivers, we presume this is Sakon Yamamoto, being interviewed by Japanese television. We're not going to attempt to translate it. But David, while they're talking, very interestingly, talking about the weight, this very day, today in fact, the ACO, the organiser of Le Mans, have announced in advance that they're going to put 25 kilos of weight on the Aston Martin DB9Rs and on the new Corvette C6Rs. Now, originally they said there would be no weight increase until next year's Le Mans. So why have they taken this step?
What I was saying before, if you get one manufacturer who's much quicker than everybody else, they'll try and slow them down with a weight increase. And those two manufacturers at Le Mans itself were very quick in their category, much quicker than the other cars in the same class. So they've added 25 kilos of weight to both of those cars to try and slow them down a little bit in their particular class. Now that will take effect basically from the next race, and that will be both in the European Le Mans series and in the American Le Mans series. But I mean, those cars, if they wanted to, they can bring them over here and race in the Super GT that we're watching now at SUGO.
Wouldn't we love to see the racing green Aston Martins here? Yeah, Silverstone LMES will be next up on Motors, middle of August. Welcome back to Motors, SUGO, Japan, where we have round 4 of the Super GT Championship. David Leslie and Mark Cole bringing you all the action from Sunday's race. And what a race it's been, David. A lot of collisions, a lot of dramas, even a big fire which gave us a red flag. First one I've seen for 3 years of covering the championship, and they're still all racing and charging hard.
Yeah, it's very unusual to have a red flag in endurance racing now. As we said earlier, normally they'll put a pace car out and run everyone around behind a pace car until they sort out the problem. But that was a massive problem when that Lamborghini went off and hit the wall and went up in flames. Whatever it hit, it must have broke the car in half, because it was burning massively, and it just hit fire extinguisher after fire extinguisher after fire extinguisher to try and put it out. They did get it eventually, but it just took them a little bit of time, and that was not something we're used to seeing nowadays in endurance racing. But having had that red flag and having taken half an hour or so to clean up the mess that it made and across the circuit, and then washed it down with a bit of water, and came the restart. The restart being very eventful in that the leader, or had been leading for the first 10 laps, got turned around at the first corner, and that was the Calsonic Nissan blue car, number 12, this car here in actual fact. So he's had to battle his way back from what was basically last place after 10 laps, and he's now up into 4th place just now, and you can see he's got his headlights on, trying to make sure the little GT300 cars in front can see him coming. He flashes their lights just to warn them that this much bigger, quicker cars arriving would like past as quickly as possible without slowing him down. So the times vary tremendously in endurance racing, depending upon how many cars you have to pass, because quite often they can pass 4 or 5 cars in one lap to try and keep going. Now in that one lap, if you've got that many cars to pass, it could be anything up to 2 or 3 seconds a lap slower than you would be if there was no one in front of you whatsoever. So your lap times do vary quite a lot, so your ability to be able to get through the traffic and pass cars as you arrive at them and try and keep your lap times down to being consistent, and in this case round about the sort of 1 going to do 118s in the race, then 118s, 119s is what you're looking at. And if you can do that consistently and not have too many sort of 122s as you're passing lots of the slow cars. The Calsonic cars come up behind two cars that are fighting, and because he's being held up, right behind him is coming one of the Supras as well. So he's losing time in traffic, but the Supra somehow or another is managing to make that up, and that's the number 6 SO car. Now remember, that car's just been in for a stop-go penalty, for a drive-through penalty, because of his hitting the back of the Honda NSX and pushing him out of the way. And here we see the current standings for the little GT300s, and we've now got the Toyota still out in front, and what we've got now, the little RX-7 in second place, the Endless Nissan in third place, the number 27 car, which is the little VMAC, which has led for such a long time, is now into fourth place. The Zero car, which is the Honda NSX car, the car that was on pole position, that's the M-Tech NSX, is dropped himself down. He seemed to have some problems earlier on. He's dropped himself down into fifth place. And in sixth place, the number 30 car that we haven't seen much of, that's the Reckless Toyota MRS. So you got two Toyota MRSs, first and sixth in the top six there.
And a big move there by Wakisaka, Juichi Wakisaka, just trying to take that place away there from Benoit Trullier. Both very, very experienced Japanese racers. Benoit Trullier, of course, French. He was the 2001 Japanese Formula 3 champion, though. 15 wins out of 19 starts from 13 poles. And the move comes. Wakisaka, the man in the Le Mans team car, goes through, but Trullier takes it back. They're side by side, but it looks like the man in the SO car is going to have the edge now.
Yeah, he was just, he put himself beside him, and when he got the next corner, he was on line to take the corner, and that's how eventually he got past. We've seen that 2 or 3 times in this race where guys have gone around corners, at least a couple of corners side by side, and they've just had to sort of hang in there side by side until they get to the next corner, whereby, you know, one of them's on the inside and he says, "Thank you very much, I am going to have this eventually." And that's exactly what happened there.
And look how he's pulling out now. He's got past. That was very, very quick indeed. Here's our race leader, though. This is Sakon Yamamoto on board the Tenacity Tom Supra, the car that's been leading since about half distance. It crept up there when we weren't looking almost, and it's been out front ever since. And what a good job they're doing ahead of the Denso Sard Supra and the sister Tenacity Tom Supra, the 36 car of Australian James Courtney and Takeshi Shusia. So as they now going into the last 10 laps of this race, 78 laps we've just heard, because of the problems they had with the Lamborghini, a half-hour break almost while the red flag was on. They've knocked 3 laps off the end of it. 78 laps it's going to go to, and now we're counting down into the last 10. So second round of pit stops must almost certainly be over now, David.
Yes, they're not going to come in with just 10 laps to go. That second round of pit stops has been and gone, and the cars are still quite close together and pushing very hard. As we've seen the Calsonic car and the SO Toyota fighting there side by side to try and get past each other. And these guys, you know, they never give up, although they've had some problems, their own problems. Those two cars together, one got turned around early on, one had a drive-through penalty. That was down to himself, basically, the reason for getting that. But, you know, if you have a problem, then you've got to keep on going. But these guys out front, the two Dynasty cars and the Denso Sard car, the red and white car we were looking at, you know, they've had no problems. They've just gone out there and they've gone round and round. We expected very much at the beginning of this race, as we said earlier on, to have the Hondas and the Nissans up front, because they certainly qualified ahead of all these Toyotas, and that's what we expected to see up there. But that didn't happen for various reasons, and all of a sudden it looks like a Toyota whitewash.
Well, here's our race leader then, Sakon Yamamoto in the 37 Tenacity Tom Supra, 500 horsepower from this big heavy V8 engine car. These cars, as opposed to the Nissans, which are turbocharged, these have the 4.5 litre V8. The Nissans a 3.5 litre V6 twin turbo. 3 laps to go then, and it looks like an historic Maiden win for Tatsuya Takakata and Sakon Yamamoto, two guys who've never won before. And interestingly, David, in GT300, the car that's leading there, the little Toyota MRS, those two drivers have never won a race before either. And we're talking about Minoru Tanaka and Kazuki Nakajima.
Yeah, they're going to be exceptionally happy with that little Toyota MRS, the black and white car that we'd seen 2 or 3 times during the programme. And when you're getting your maiden win, if you're getting 2 of them, one in the GT500 class, one in the GT300 class, I have to say that's very good for the organisers as well, because, as you said earlier, you're always looking for new winners and new people to do well. And just in front of the number 37 car, you see the little yellow RX-7. I do like that little car, little privateer outfit. And they do work hard. They've certainly got themselves brought up a gear from when we first seen them in the very first race, and they've been right at the front running all the time. At the moment they're in second place in their class with that yellow RX-7, the Aspara Drink RX-7.
So just the last couple of laps unwinding, 2 to go now, and it's all looking very, very good indeed for these guys. But we have at the moment Toyota Supras 1, 2, 3 and 4 after seeing that pass of Wakisaka over Benoit Trulio. Just talking at the moment there to Tatsuya Kataoka in the pits, obviously asking him his impressions, and probably saying I've got both fingers, both legs, both arms crossed because we've just got a lap and a half to go now. But they have a good lead at the moment. I think they've got best part of a quarter of a lap over the Denso Saad Supra GT. And the Denasi Tom Supra looking very, very strong indeed for the maiden win for these 2 drivers.
Yeah, they've not put a foot wrong. They've been out there. They've had good lap times, been consistent when they were out there. And, what's happened to the rest and what happened to the Nissan and what happened to the Honda was various problems, a lot of them being driver problems and not always their own problems. Somebody else has hit them and knocked them off. Certainly 2 of the Honda NSX, the 2 blue and white ones, both the Ray Rig one and the Epson one, were knocked off by other people. They also had done nothing wrong, but sometimes motorsport does that to you, and while you do nothing wrong, someone else does, and that takes the position away. But these guys have kept their nose clean. Yes, there is some damage on the side of the car. As you can see, earlier on we pointed out one of the cars had quite a big black tyre mark down the side of it. So trying to get past so many of these cars, remembering how short this circuit is, only 2.3 miles, and with 40-odd cars starting this race, and half of them being the GT300 cars, that's a lot of cars that you have to overtake each lap. And at some time or another, somebody makes a mistake, and all of a sudden a bit of damage is done. And sometimes permanent damage, and sometimes it's just a little bit of rub and you can manage to get away with it.
This team run by Masanori Sakaya. I said earlier, of course, Seiji Ara, the first Japanese to win Le Mans. What I actually meant to say was his team was the first Japanese team to win Le Mans, run from Japan, Audi Japan, because Masanori Sakaya, we tend to forget, won Le Mans in 1995, driving for McLaren in the Renault Clinic F1 GTR. And this team we're looking at now, the 37 team, is run by that same man, Masanori Sakaya, and his 2 drivers on board, Tatsuya Kataoka, who's known as the fair-haired boy of Toyota, likes to dye his hair a strange colour. Sakon Yamamoto, some of you in Britain may remember, he was racing in British Formula 3, and there's the checkered flag, David.
Yeah, they've got there to the finish, and very happy team indeed, all jumping up and down on the pit wall. Their first ever GT500 win for the Super GT series here in Japan, and he's very pleased. There he is, he's got the number 1, his finger out the door saying, I'm number 1, we won, we're first, and that's going to be one very happy team having their first win in the Super GT series.
And there's the second place car, the Denso Saad Supra GT, Andre Couto, Ronnie Quintarelli doing themselves no harm at all with a good drive there, good solid drive, that car remarkably undamaged. And then the sister Denacity Tom Supra, another of the Masanori Sakaya team cars of James Courtney of Australia, Takeshi Shisuya of Japan finishing in 3rd place. Oh, and we got a crasher on the very last lap.
That crasher looked as though it was yellow. That doesn't look good, considering how often we keep talking about a little yellow RX-7 that goes so well. And across the line is coming the little black and white MRS, and it could be that the leader had been the little Mazda, and it's gone off on the last corner, and here past has gone the little Toyota MR to take the win. So we're not sure who actually went off there, but certainly there was a yellow car went off on the last corner there.
We're certainly going into the last lap. The Toyota was just leading, but that Mazda was biting at its tail. But the winners are Minoru Tanaka and Kazuki Nakajima. And as David said a few minutes ago, an historic maiden win for them in GT 300, as well as a maiden win in GT 500. So celebrations in the Tenacity pits. Great day for Masanori Sakaya. There he is. There is the man in the hat. And in comes the winning car.